December 7th, 1941.
Go, go, go!
War is hell. If you've never been in it, it's hard to explain to people.
The trauma of facing the enemy is the same in each war.
My name is Cynthia, and I have PTSD.
And I've had PTSD since 1967.
This never goes away.
I don't think we fully understand yet how big the PTSD problem is.
To know war is to know that there is still madness in this world.
There are organic changes in the brain that are so severe that they prevent the person from thinking clearly.
Stress has a cumulative effect.
See, I ain't slept in 12 months.
I was very angry, I was depressed.
I'll still think about suicide.
I used to self-medicate with alcohol a lot.
Cover, cover! Easy, easy.
These alternative types of treatments all need to be explored.
He doesn't want to be this person, that he is this PTSD monster that comes out in him.
With treatment, people can get much better.
Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord.
22 veterans a day kill themselves, 75 attempt. When you get that down to 21 and 74. After that's reached, then the goal is 2073. One veteran killing themselves is one too many.
I'm Don Whipple, Corporal Don Whipple, U.S. Marine Corps, 5th Marine Division. The night I graduated, the next day I caught a train to Denver to enlist in the Marine Corps. I was at Iwo Jima and Nagasaki right after the bomb was dropped. I've got delayed onset PTSD, a pretty good dose of that. And I've had it revealing itself pretty strongly in the last 2.5, 3 years.
I had dropped out of college and wasn't sure where I was going with my life, and a month later I had gone to the recruiter to join the Air Force. I was deployed to Kandahar, Afghanistan. I was excited and nervous, anxious. I wanted to go over and help the mission and do something important and really feel like I did something with my time in the military.
I turned 18 in high school, and I went down to interview the recruiters and selected in the Navy. And then I was to report aboard the USS Bennington CVS-20. It was an anti-submarine carrier. It was in dry dock at the time and became my home.
My name is James Downing. I'm 102 years old and believed to be the oldest living survivor of the Pearl Harbor attack. I didn't want to fight, but the only way a high school graduate could get out of a small town was to go in the military. I went in purely for economic reasons. I hope there was some patriotism there, but the main thing that drove me was economic.
My name is Charles Lee Jones. I'm a former member of the 4th Battalion, 503rd of the 173rd Airborne Brigade, A Company, 2nd Platoon, 2nd Squad, Point Man. I entered Vietnam on June 19, 1966, and in July I entered my first firefight in the rubber tree plantation off of Highway 1 coming out of Saigon. It's a day to remember because that was the first day I contacted the enemy.
I was an Air Force second lieutenant Yes, I arrived with an air crew in Foggia, Italy on July 4th, 1944. And I went up on my first mission on July the 7th. Our mission was to bomb an oil refinery deep inside of northeastern Germany. As we flew across the Adriatic Sea, we got some flak. And that was my first baptism to combat, I guess you would say.
My name is Scott Lee. I'm a 23-year combat veteran of the U.S. Army, 100% disabled, and suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. I originally joined the military because I was in the reserves at the time, and I just went back active duty. I was looking for stability with a job. I was newly married, had 2 small children, and I needed a stable career, stable job.
I was 20 years old when I went to Vietnam. I deployed with the medevac unit from Fort Polk, Louisiana. The job of a medic and the chopper was to stop the bleeding, keep them breathing, and treat for shock, keep them alive till we could get to the hospital. We learned just to do what had to be done.
I joined the Marine Corps in 2002. So I was walking home and I was talking to my mom on the phone. And as I'm talking, crossing the street, a Marine Corps recruiter was driving his car. And I shit you not, he almost hit me with his car because I was jaywalking. And we started talking, and the next thing you know, I was in his office signing papers. My own mother didn't even believe me when he came to pick me up to go to boot camp.
I was drafted in October of 1966, almost a year in OJT as an infantryman in Vietnam. Wounded on 26 March 68, the next 5 months in the hospital, and I was out.
I joined the Air Force in 1999, December of 99. I had just had my first son in August, and so I joined, and I thought I was only going to stay in for 4 years and just do my time and get out, but I ended up loving what I do.
I couldn't hold on to a job, and I needed to make sure that my daughter was taken care of with child support and also medical. And I thought, hey, if I join the military, then I will always have a paycheck. She will have medical benefits and she'll be taken care of. Little did I know that within a year and a half, I'd be fighting for my life in Afghanistan.
This is dirt therapy, where you grow green tomatoes. They're just as good as red tomatoes. I grow my own food. I got my own garden. That was one of my therapies to go. Me and my wife, we grow a garden every year. That takes a lot of pressure off of us. And that's what we do every year. I grow string beans, tomatoes 7 feet, tall as he is now. I got peppers, I got chili peppers, and we have marigolds. These keep the bugs off of our green vegetables. You're watching something grow. My wife get out here and we get in the dirt, and look what comes up. Because you're creating new life. You're not taking a life, you're creating a life. And we call creating food creating a life, because you got to live. But this is my therapy, one of them. It beats drinking. And this is what we do. This was my therapy. This took away a whole lot because I'm creating something, growing it.
War is hell no matter what war you're in. Once you go through getting shot at, it doesn't matter what war you're in.
First kill is the worst because you never forget it. I remember down to the day and the time that it happened. It's something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. If you've never exchanged lives with another man, You have no general idea what Vietnam was about. Some dudes first kill, they throw up. I went to throw up and Sergeant Martin told me, he said, hey, swallow it, meathead. You got 11 more months of this.
The first Japanese plane I saw was a fighter plane coming in low and slow. The pilot banked so the machine guns would point at me and three others, but it didn't bank far enough, so the shots went right over our heads and dug a trench right behind us. I was assigned to the battleship USS West Virginia. The Japanese dropped 40 torpedoes, and 9 of them struck my ship. Another 9 struck the battleship Oklahoma right next to us, and we were right ahead of the Arizona. And we lost 107 men that morning.
We saw all types of injuries, and even during a battle there would be all types of gunshot wounds. And some of the most severe wounds were landmines. One time we got called out to pick up wounded, and they brought me one guy. He's got one leg blown off, and then I see them bringing me 2 more. Between the 3 of them, they only had 1 leg left. So that's one mission I will never get out of my mind.
I remember grabbing the last guy, and he was fully intact, he wasn't bloody, just really dirty with dust and stuff. And I remember just kind of picking him up and hugging him, and his eyes are still open and looking me in the eye, and I'm like, wow. And I just remember looking at him like, wow, this guy's really young. And I laid him down and kind of just held his hand and stared into his eyes for a while, and remember his name, Corporal Carver, and said a prayer for his family. And I just remember closing his eyes for the last time and letting go of his hand and just...
I was told that our track was blown 30 feet in the air. It probably weighed 40,000 pounds and it went 30 feet in the air. 6 men, most of whom weren't even 21 years old, were wounded, and 3 killed.
It was just like a nightmare. Here I am, my first mission, and it seemed like is this real or isn't this real? And then I realized, this is it. I'm a prisoner of war. We were starved. We had about 1,000 calories a day. The bread was black bread, and it was sometimes tainted with horse droppings, and sometimes with ground glass. So we had to be careful about eating it.
I had the worst luck. I swear, like, at one point they were calling me IED Pierce, because every time I went out, we got hit with some type of explosive.
Shit! Go!
Shit hits the fan, and all I remember was the door just coming off. I saw a white light. I woke up, it was blood all over my face because my eye was bleeding. And I'm waking up to a guy that's trying to stab me. And my buddy's there screaming because he lost his hands. After it was all said and done, come to find out, my arm was broken, my hand was broken, my eye was swollen shut, and it detached my central retina from my right eye. And I lost complete vision for 3 months.
A mortar hit right behind me, and I got hit in both legs, both arms, and through the head. Then they evacuated us. I spent 6 months in the hospital.
On the 24th of April, 1951, myself and a good friend of mine, Hiroshi Miyamura, were wounded and were taken prisoner. After about 40 days, one of our personnel died. They weren't feeding us, they weren't treating us, they were just storing us till we died. So we decided one of us would have to escape, We went up to a hill and drew a POW sign with an arrow to the hut we were kept in. On the morning of the third day, pilots came in with their Corsairs and bombarded the hill surrounding the place we were being captured. About a half hour later, 5 tanks from the 1st Cavalry Division came in, surrounded our hut, loaded us on the leeward side because they were taking fire from the hills, and backed off about 400 or 500 yards, and we were home free.
This is Staff Sergeant Alvin Josephi Jr., a United States Marine Corps combat correspondent speaking from Iwo Jima.
And at Iwo, I was in the 2nd wave. We were all lined up ready to disembark. This landing craft just next to us had a direct hit from Mount Suribachi with an artillery or mortar, and blew that boat up in the air, and arms and legs were flinging around, and weapons were dropping off into the water, and that was the first real sense that this is for real. Well, we saw dead bodies all over the beach there, and nothing but jeeps and all kind of equipment that had been hit. We could see shells hitting all around because they really opened up about that time. They were waiting for us to kind of begin to group up on the beach. Just as I stepped up on the top of that terrace, a mortar went off about 5 feet in front of me, and it's all I remember is that horrendous blast, and it knocked me down and out, and a piece of shrapnel in my leg. We were on there for the next 35 days. I consider it a real honor to have been a part of one of the greatest fraternities in all the world is the Marine Corps.
We bring in about 30 individuals from around the country with varying degrees of both physical and mental and emotional injuries. They are primarily from post 9/11 combat duty. We teach them golf, whether they're absolute beginners or they've been playing golf their entire life and they're trying to reintegrate back into the game after these injuries, trying to learn how to deal with these injuries and continue to play golf.
No matter how mad you get at the ball, the club, you only have yourself. And that's why I think a lot of service members that's dealing with issues tend to gravitate towards golf.
With some of these guys that are trying to heal a traumatic brain injury, trying to heal from post-traumatic stress, we're trying to rework some of these motor patterns. On a physical level, this training that we're doing with their nervous system is activating parts of the brain that may not otherwise be activated, and they're doing it in a way that's fully aware, fully conscious, with a specific goal in mind. They're getting feedback from their bodies, from the golf ball, from the golf swing itself. So I think there's a physical aspect there of healing some of these injuries.
Golf, to me, it's relaxing. 95% of the time, it's quiet. You hear the birds chirping, it's relaxing. And I like being in that relaxing state where it's back in nature. And also, I think golf is really fun.
You need to be mentally present in the moment. You need to be emotionally somewhat detached. You need to accept a negative consequence and be able to move past it.
Because I miss the ball a lot. Like, me and the ball are not friends. We're not.
I think gaining that perspective, I think, is especially important to these guys as well.
If I'm having a horrible day or horrible week, I know Saturday or Sunday, I'm going golfing. I'm going to relax, I'm going to have a good time, and it's going to help bring me back down to where I need to be.
That's why I love the game of golf, because it teaches me about life. I know that seems really, really deep, but it really does.
These guys are so inspiring to me, the adversity that they're facing in their daily lives, and just watching them come out here with humor and grace, and they offer me thanks, and I'm almost embarrassed to accept their thanks because I'm trying to thank them for what they've given to our country.
So my first time in Somalia, I was there for 6 months. Working in the hospital, that's where I saw incredible injuries, bodies with gunshot wounds, bodies with limbs missing. Seeing people that you knew that within the next hour were going to be dead. But you don't see that. You tell them you're going to be fine. The sights, the sounds, the smells will stick with me forever. And while we're treating people, in the background you still hear gunshots. You still hear helicopters flying overhead. You hear the cries of people that have been hurt. It was the most horrific 72 hours of my life.
The saddest memory I have is men being blown off into the water, and when they came up, they had a thin film of oil on their bodies, and the fire from the Arizona was so hot that they just became torches, human torches, when they come out of the water.
Probably the most trying portion of being a chaplain's assistant was doing the duties of the chaplain that I wasn't trained to do and did the best I could. And that was providing last rites. And they say that, well, that's not your job. But when you have somebody dying in front of you, and you have their last words, it's hard. It's hard to take care of. You try to do the best situation for that guy. Because once they're gone, dead is dead. There is no more.
John James, good friend of mine, just wore all my clothes on R&R, came back, first trip on the point, got his brains blown out. And he had just wore all my clothes.
Afghanistan to me was a shithole. You go to that country and the first thing that hits you is the overwhelming stench. It's awful. I was driving in Kabul City and these two little kids were riding on a bike right alongside of us and cut in front of us. And I ended up hitting the two boys. And if I hadn't killed them, the people behind us definitely did. I wanted to stop, and we couldn't stop. We didn't know if it was a setup. We didn't know if it was just an accidental hit, but we had to keep going. And that pretty much destroyed me as a person and as a mom. That just ate me up inside.
One of the lonely times in my life was I stood there watched those teenage kids being dumped into the sea, and the flag was draped over them, and the chaplain would give a prayer and they would play taps, and these bodies would go slipping out into the water. And I just sat there again, cried like a baby, because I thought, these guys are young guys, 10,000 miles away from home. Nobody knows where they're buried. No family, no loved ones, I thought, what a horrible way to die.
October 3rd, 2009, at Combat Outpost Keating started like most days there. You wake up to machine gun fire and mortar fire.
Camp Keating was not just one of the most remote outposts in Afghanistan, it was also one of the most vulnerable. 53 American soldiers were suddenly surrounded by more than 300 Taliban fighters. The outpost was being slammed from every direction.
As soon as I got to the door, I saw several splashes. Splashes meaning where the bullet hits the hard-packed dirt, but it looks like it's hitting the water because it poofs. I find cover here and there as explosions are happening all around. I see that you hear the tinks, the zips, the pops as you're going. Once I get to the battle position, I didn't see anybody. And I opened the door and it says, hey, I got your ammunition for you. And then, boom, a rocket-propelled grenade hits the inside of the arm of the open turret and showered shrapnel and concussion throughout the whole vehicle. It felt like I was slapped in the face really hard. You're outnumbered, you're surrounded, you're outpositioned, you're outgunned, you're very low on ammo. The only friendlies within sight are either wounded or dead. You have no communications, and the enemy's still coming. The sound was immense. We were stepping over Taliban bodies, and then I see the body of an American to my right, exposed. Didn't see his face. But I didn't have to. He was Griffin. He was my roommate for a year. I believe that through this hellish day that we were able to accomplish something excellent. I still felt the pain of Gallegos. I felt the pain of Martin, Griffin and Scusa, and Thompson. But I felt that, you know, Sergeant Larson and I saved Mace. And then that night, the first sergeant started walking around whispering to people. And then I overheard that Mace had died on the operating table.
Staff Sergeant Ty Carter received the Medal of Honor yesterday for his heroic actions at Combat Outpost Keating, Afghanistan in October 2009.
I was informed that I had been nominated for the Medal of Honor about 2 weeks after the firefight. Now, when I was told that, I was very upset. We had just gone through the memorial of the 8 men who fell that day, and I was also at the beginning of my severe post-traumatic stress.
Wounded Warrior USA is a nonprofit that takes active duty wounded warriors fishing. We bring soldiers out here at the serenity of this quiet, peaceful place, surrounded by all the pine trees, mountains, and of course the water.
It's really peaceful, it's really nice, and it's really great to see big smiles, you know, just having some quiet time and just getting out in nature.
What it does, it's the excitement, it's the adrenaline flow that they experience to hooking up with that fish, fighting that fish, bringing it in the shore. It gives them a sense of accomplishment.
Today's the first time I actually held a fish in a long time, so that's a good thing. Having to hold the fish without having gloves on, that's real progress. So this is therapy, I guess, because, you know, it's nice and calm and relaxing, but also getting over some of my fears of touching things and stuff. So
the serenity of this ranch and the water, watching the ripples come across, quiets the mind to the point of there's no interference. There's nothing else to concentrate on or focus on.
Fishing has been a great relief for my husband from his PTSD. He's able to get into an open environment where there's very few people, really be able to focus one-on-one with himself or today with the kids and be able to enjoy teaching them how to fly fish.
We're confident that this program works. At Fort Carson, one of the commanding officers over the years was asking us what we did to his soldiers, and we responded by saying we have fun and we catch fish. And he says, whatever you're doing, don't stop, because we're seeing results in these soldiers and their rehabilitation process.
well, I got 2 to shore, but then there was a third one that took my bait and hook and everything. Yeah, he must have been 3 feet long. I don't know. He's the one that got away.
We're committed to helping soldiers, active duty soldiers and veterans, with PTSD and TBI.
Caught a fish today. Good day.
There is these hidden injuries of this war era, post-traumatic stress disorder, a traumatic brain injury. Often you can't see those in a person because they look physically sound and they look mentally together as well, but they're suffering.
Depression, post-traumatic stress, TBI, these are the signature wounds of these current conflicts, and they're invisible. They're invisible to most, but they're pretty darn real.
The symptoms of PTSD have been around as long as people have been in wars.
Over many years, hundreds of years, we've had different names for it. Sometimes it's been shell shock or war neuroses.
I can remember enough number of old neighbors that were in World War I, and some of those guys was crazy as all get out, we thought. Then in the World War II, they called it battle fatigue.
What's the matter with you?
I guess I just can't take it, sir.
What did you say?
It's my nerves, sir. I just can't stand the shelling anymore.
Your nerves. Well, hell, you're just a goddamn coward. We don't have a yellow bastard sitting here crying in front of these brave men who've been wounded in battle. Shut up! Don't admit this yellow bastard. Nothing wrong with him. We won't have sons of bitches who are afraid to fight stinking up this place of honor. You're going back to the front, my friend. Either that or I'm going to stand you up in front of a firing squad. I ought to shoot you myself, you goddamn bastard. Get him out of here.
There was no talk of PTSD in my generation.
I actually treat World War II POWs. I see veterans from Korea, from Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Gulf War, and many of them speak about similar issues.
If you're shot, it doesn't matter what war you were shot in. The trauma of facing the enemy is the same in each war.
I am sure that many of the same experiences that occur on the battlefield today could have occurred somewhere in Europe. And so the age really makes no difference. It can be a young person just coming out of the service, or it can be somebody from a war of many years ago.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is a disorder that people can develop after experiencing all types of trauma, whether it be combat trauma, rape, or sexual assault. It could also include things like natural disasters, vehicular accidents. So it's a disorder that can cause a different cluster of symptoms for people. And a lot of these things that we're identifying as symptoms of PTSD were actually skills that were needed in a combat zone.
It's that military mind that keeps us from recovery. It's that super training that we had.
Human aggression, human violence is distressing to just about every human being. And that's what war involves, and that means not just being on the receiving end of it. That means if you're perpetrating it.
In a war zone, there's a lot of terribly visually traumatic and auditorily traumatic things that happen to individuals in addition to physical blasts to their brain. And this extreme, if you will, emotional trauma is believed to trigger a lot of biochemical processes in the emotional regulation centers, which are actually organic brain disease. So this emotional trauma actually on a cellular level turns into a physical ailment that we can treat. The idea that a seriously disabled, anxiety paralyzed, suicidal veteran with PTSD has, quote, sustained just an emotional injury is completely inaccurate. When they see physical evidence, it is validation that they weren't making these things up, which so often they've been accused of by the system, if you will.
But I believe VA now understands that this is something that we need to know more about, but we obviously need to treat each individual as an individual.
Any human being, you put them under enough stress, no matter what they're training, they're going to have symptoms. So no doubt about it, the fact that the expression war is hell, even if you've been trained to do it, even if you volunteered for it, it's still hell.
It's a very healing process. You know, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's physical, it's psychological. It brings all those elements together, and they're able to experience the joy of surfing.
We are hosting the first ever Adaptive World Surfing Championship, which brings 18 nations, 69 competitors from the 5 continents.
Operation AMP is a non-profit veterans organization, and we focus on using surf therapy and surf healing for our wounded warriors and disabled veterans suffering from traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder, and amputations.
The ocean is as the place where life started, and the ocean is a nurturing place. Salt water has wonderful things that does to your body, to your soul, and this has been known for thousands of years. A lot of people that haven't been in the ocean, when they come to the ocean, their life changes, their face changes, their smile changes, their mind, their soul changes.
It's a cleansing process. It washes their worries away, their issues away. It gives them a chance to finally breathe. And that's really what surfing does. And then, you know, when you get out there, you have that water, wind, waves, sun, and the power of the waves, you know, on you, then you have a singular focus. You know you're out there, and you're close to nature, you're close with your thoughts, and you can not worry about the pain, the depression, or, you know, what am I going to do with my life, you know, in the next day or two. It just kind of gets put aside in favor of you being in the ocean. So it's a very therapeutic, calming, and enriching experience.
There are doctors right now that are prescribing surfing as a rehab, not just for injuries, but also for mental difficulties. So surfing is right now is not just an activity, it's a cure.
So now we're able to do that for our veterans.
I would like to be able to bring hope to the people that don't have hope today. So if you're a veteran and you think that, you know, life is coming, you know, to a dark tunnel and you don't see light, come to the ocean, and it will give you hope.
There's help out there, guys and gals. There's a way out, and if you can, you know, get a hold of Operation AMP or any other organization that will get you in the water, and I'm telling you, it'll be a life-changing experience.
My PTSD feels like you're in a hallway, that you're trapped in this hallway that has no doors, no windows, no rooms, that you just can't get out of. It's like you're stuck in maybe like a broken world.
I would lash out at people. I would jump out of the car and go pound on other people's car windows if they cut me off. I drank a lot.
The symptoms for post-traumatic stress disorder fall into a few categories, and they cluster around intrusive symptoms, they cluster around avoidance, and they cluster around being hypervigilant to stimuli that you might associate with your combat experience.
PTSD for me is confusion.
One of the biggest problems I have are to be talking and jump off to the subject of something else. And things like that are the most annoying things for me and for everybody around me.
Can we restart that?
Don't get frustrated now.
Okay, so I have a brain injury and multiple things won't stick with me.
Problem.
I was in 39 firefights total during the year. Hold up, Doug. I got, see, when you, remember she told you about them flashbacks? See, all this here, in order to tell you this, I got to remember it. And that's where the PTSD comes in.
They don't like being in public places. Just about everybody I've treated that's been in combat, they don't like being in public places, supermarkets, malls, things that most of us do every day.
Fireworks that are unexpected, basically any loud, sudden noises that could be mistaken for gunfire.
I don't like large crowds of people. I don't like large noises. I don't like small rooms, and I don't like to be put in a position of vulnerability.
You start noticing for the second, third, or 10th time where the exit is if you're in a room, who's around you, who's behind you.
I hear about survivor's guilt every single day.
Yes, I do have survivor's guilt. Everyone who was there at Keating has survivor's guilt, who survived.
To be a part of death, and you happen to make it out, is heavy duty, and I see that a ton. I didn't go out, even though it wasn't my turn. I didn't go out, and my buddy was killed. It should have been me.
My best friend was killed in Iraq. He worked in the office. He worked in S1. And he came up to me and he's like, yeah, tomorrow I go outside the wire. And he's like, hey, maybe we might see combat. I'm like, dude, you're an office pro. You'll never see combat. You know, we lost a lot of guys during my rotations, and you know, sometimes you get numb and you don't think about it. And when they had the meeting, they said his name, and for the rest of my life, I have to live with what I said. I think that's the first time I've ever told somebody that.
A doctor once asked me, how often do you have flashbacks? I say every day. Anything could remind you of that trauma you went through.
I could be driving down a road and I'll see a little girl in the back seat of another vehicle, and then I'll think of, oh, my daughter Madison, and then instantly I'm back laying in the cafe next to the aid station staring at body bags of our fallen service members. That memory triggers the memory of the firefight, which triggers the whole day, and it's all compact in about a blink of an eye. But you're experiencing all these emotions at once, and then you're back to reality, and I'm white-knuckling the steering wheel, sweating and breathing heavy, and trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
Being in a car and being stopped in a car in traffic, very, very dangerous when you're in combat.
Driving for me will trigger it easily. I have horrendous road rage.
A lot of traffic, actually, it tends to be a trigger. People cutting him off, going too slow, confining him in between different vehicles.
You're not going to meet many veterans who sleep well.
I wake up twice a night, have for 40-some years, every night.
And when I come back home, the very first night, my mother asked me, she says, you didn't sleep much last night. I said, I ain't slept in 12 months. 12.
Nightmares, the kind that'll soak your sheets, very common.
I fight in my sleep and I scream, and my husband wakes me up because he says I'll be trying to scratch the blood off of me, and of course there's no blood on me.
I used to be wailing around in the bed and flopping my arms around, and I'd wake up my wife and she'd say, "What's going on with you?" And I would say, "I don't know, just fighting the war again."
When I have the nightmares, the whole thing will replay over exactly how it happened, except that we'll pull over, we'll stop, and the boys are laying face down on the ground, and I roll them over and I see my own kids. And it's like I just killed my own kids.
Today I heard Bob say more about his time in Korea than in the 51 years that we've been married. It's just something that he has never wanted to talk about.
Had it not been for the flak jackets that we wore, because I got a hit right in the back with shrapnel, without that flak jacket, I'd be dead.
When you see somebody get so emotional, you know, at the mention of being there and everything, there's something that's repressed or hidden, in my opinion, you know, that maybe he has just buried, you know, and a lot of people know how to do that really well. He's one of them.
I've tried, and counselors have tried to bring out of me whatnot, but some of it is so terrible that you want to forget it. And I think I've actually just tucked it down to another section of my subconscious that I just forget it.
This never goes away. You live with it and try to put it in the back of your mind, move on.
I do think my husband holding in what happened over there is detrimental to his mental health. He does build up anger because of it, and when he explodes, it's an explosion.
Sometimes I was short-tempered with my friends, with my family.
I was very angry, I was depressed, I didn't care about work anymore. I was showing up late, I wasn't getting all my work done, I just didn't care.
Let us review some of the drugs used in narcosis therapy and chemical hypnosis. The drugs of choice are the barbiturates. The most practical one for producing and maintaining narcosis is this one, sodium amytal. Patients with fully developed varieties of combat exhaustion will require a minimum of 24 hours of continuous narcosis.
15 years ago, when a veteran went to the VA, many times they would be handed a bag full of pills and a prescription and be sent on their way.
My husband, through the VA and through the military, was prescribed an amazing amount of antipsychotic medications, nerve medications, anxiety medications, depression medications.
I believe the traditional therapy as far as prescriptions is putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
My husband is on several medications. He actually did some inpatient treatment to get it regulated because we were having a really hard time with regulating his medications.
And I think VA has become much more aware that it's a holistic approach that needs to be taken to help somebody through the issues that they're confronted with post-traumatic stress.
One of the issues with veterans with PTSD is self-medicating, either with prescription drugs or alcohol or illegal drugs. It seems like we tend to self-medicate thinking that we're easing that stuff that's going on under that umbrella of PTSD. Of course, that's wrong, but we don't know it at the time.
A lot of his drinking was self-medicating.
Alcohol seems to be the major coping mechanism.
Every night after work, I'd stop on the way home and just drink myself crazy.
So things that calm the nervous system are the ones of choice, and alcohol is the number one out there. It's legal. You don't need a script pad, and you have easy access to it, and it works. And it's also very a part of the culture in the military. Let's go have a beer.
So one day, my wife and I had a brilliant idea to go see the movie Captain Phillips, an amazing movie Tom Hanks did an amazing job. During the movie, which is based in Somalia, the Somalis are firing their weapons in the air. They're in attack mode. They're going to go, hijack a ship. During that time, my PTSD moment started. The theater was no longer a theater. I was in the movie. I could smell every gunshot. I could smell the gunpowder. I could smell the environment. It was a surreal feeling while I'm in the theater. I was angry. I was mad. I was scared. I was apprehensive. I was so many different emotions.
Look at me. Sure. I'm the captain now.
People ask why I didn't leave the theater. What happened in Somalia didn't beat me once. I wasn't going to let it happen again.
Monster is Jason's service dog. He is able to get out into the community with him on a daily basis. He truly provides Jason stability, and mostly he gets him out, making him feel safe, being able to focus more on the dog than on the surroundings.
The thing I've discovered with Jethro, because originally he was just supposed to wake me up when I had nightmares, but since he actually barks when people walk by the house and things, I've actually discovered that just having him around makes me feel safe enough that I really don't have the nightmares all that often anymore. So I'm going to say out of everything, that's probably the best thing he does for me, is just make me feel more confident.
Friends come and go, but a dog, they stay with you for life. No matter what, he's always there for me. He means a world to me.
Without the dog, Jason was unable to leave the house without me. When we're in difficult, stressful environments such as crowds, stadiums, arenas, he will really focus on the dog. You'll see them face to face, him talking to the dog. The dog really pays attention to him at that point and knows that he's really needed.
When I'm in a dark area and you don't feel like, being touchy and feely, the dog senses that. He knows, hey, wait a minute, he's not into it. If I stare out into space and I start having like a flashback, evidently he knows because he starts licking me.
People are more forgiving about my character flaws, I guess, when I have the dogs around. It lets people know that there's a reason why I'm behaving the way I am, and it makes people more accepting and more tolerant of my eccentricities, I guess you'd say.
They're calm, they're very loving, and when you tell them to do something, most of the time, they do it.
They're just amazing. They help. They've done more for me than anything, period. I mean, more than the medications or anything else, the dogs really helped a lot.
It's a tragedy whenever any veteran takes their own life.
There are veterans out there who have been on 5, 6, 7 deployments, and it just adds together until it's to the breaking point. That's why we lose 22 veterans a day.
There are organic changes in the brain that are so severe that they prevent the person from thinking clearly and making good decisions. They're in so much pain, emotional pain, that they can't go on living.
I've been where they all are, ready to jump in the river, trying to figure out how to blow my brains out with a round point bullet, how I'd cut it, carve it, make sure it exploded in my head and doesn't just go straight through. So, I've been there too.
My lowest point came shortly after I had hit the 2 little kids. On top of hitting those 2 kids, right after that, I had been sexually assaulted by an Afghani, and I was in my safe house, and I was within seconds of killing myself. And I had a friend walk in to borrow a movie, and he stopped me from making the biggest mistake of my life.
I was in a dark place, and I didn't know what else to do, and I thought, well, hey, maybe it's easier if I'm not even here.
I was at the choice line, and that's a choice of, do I want to keep living or not? Okay, so I was there. I know what it's like. Thank God I made the right decision and went in to get some help. But way too many of our veterans are making the other choice. Way too many.
So on May 19th, 2012, I succumbed to PTSD and tried to take my own life. I remember I'd gotten home. It was a rough day. I was very emotional. I started drinking. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here. I feel completely all alone. Nobody's there to help me, not my command, nobody. And I had pills left over from a surgery, strong pain medication, and it was Oxycontin. And I took an overdose. And I knew just that in itself probably wasn't gonna actually kill me. And so I grabbed my combat knife that I had and cut a hole in my arm and tried to slash part of my artery.
It's sad. Anybody that chooses to end their own life is sad. But when these individuals have faced demons in places around the world, and then they come home, and there are demons in their own heads that they are not able to deal with, to feel lost and not have an opportunity to have the counseling that they need, it is very, very sad.
I want to say it's been 8 years since I've been to Afghanistan. Even to this day, if I'm in my dark moments, I'll still think about suicide.
Because of post-traumatic stress, there are more than 8 victims of combat outpost Keating. There were the 8 men who fell. There's Edward Faulkner, who died of an overdose about a year later. And I'm hearing random stories of men who fought that day that have already attempted suicide or are thinking about it.
My childhood friend, Major John Francis Ruaco, died by suicide in 2005. A hero, Marine pilot, who ended his life in 2005 after a very difficult deployment in the Al-Anbar province.
About 3 years ago, I had my good friend in the battalion with me, and he committed suicide. Tragic day in my life, because we've been best of buddies, been through a lot together, and now he's gone. And he wouldn't listen to me. I tried to get him to go to the VA, try to get some help. He wouldn't listen to me. His wife called me later after he had passed away and said, "Did Mike have PTSD?" And I told her, I said, "Yes, he did." I tried to help him, but he didn't want to help. So he's gone. And I'm sorry to say there's a lot of other veterans that are looking at the same thing.
I think a lot of times the horses pick us, and we don't pick the horses.
They know your emotions. You can't hide them.
You must be in a good place, you must.
They're like 30 times more sensitive to what's going on inside.
My life was saved by a horse. That's what started this whole program. I had no idea that horses could do what they do. Pick a spot against that rail and leave a space between horses, all right? Do whatever you have to get that horse calm. Our program is called Combat Veterans Cowboy Up. When I first realized what these horses were doing for me, I decided, you know what? Maybe these horses can help other veterans. So that's when the program started. drop that lead rope, and all of you have to back off like 20 feet and stop, and all those horses have to stay ground hitched without moving their feet. Horses can be really, super therapeutic for veterans who have suffered some type of trauma while they were in the military.
Before this program, I contemplated suicide many times.
Many of us have been very close to taking our lives. I tried.
And by the grace of God, I found a program like this.
We'll relate that to some human experience. Through the horses, using the horses as the medium, we start teaching different therapies and tools and techniques for the veterans that they can use in their life out there in their human herd, but they learn it from the horses, from dealing with the horses.
If I can learn to treat and be calm around a horse, I can take those skills around humans and family members and friends.
I think what's happened to us because of the traumas and all the military training and everything is we've kind of swung over to that reactive side of our brain, and that's where we're spending way too much time. Almost 130 clients have come through the program, veterans. The success rate is phenomenal. Those who have fully participated in the program, which is at least 10 sessions, have had an experienced recovery that has never been seen before.
I don't think in one session you're going to get healed, because this is more of like a holistic type healing. It takes time and it takes consistency. So I think it's something you have to come back, because each week we may learn one thing that'll help you with children. One week it'll help you in crowds.
If you isolate a horse completely from the herd, I mean totally, they can't, miles and miles away from any other horses, that horse's health, both physical and mental, take a nosedive, and it can kill the horse. It can kill the horse. We are the same way. Even though we're predators and have a human herd, our tendency as veterans with PTSD and all these issues going on, we have a tendency to isolate ourselves from our human herd, and guess what? That can kill us too. It's the most devastating thing we do to ourselves, isolation. Thinking that we're staying away from all the threats and that, but we're really just tearing ourselves apart. It's that isolation can kill, just like it does the horse. It's tremendously therapeutic, and it's helping our clients move much further in recovery than traditional therapy alone can do.
To build relationships not only with the horses but the veterans here has helped me tremendously to continue to build relationships with my family and friends.
I know it saved me.
People need to be taken seriously when they say they have a mental health issue, because just stopping long enough to admit to somebody that they may have a problem, coming from a culture that doesn't want you to admit that you may have a problem, is tough for a man or a woman coming out of the military.
I didn't want to do it myself because I'm like, oh, I don't need help, I don't need help, I don't need help, when in reality, I needed a shit ton of help.
I wasn't willing to really admit that I had PTSD, and I certainly didn't want the stigma that people had a mindset that it was you were crazy.
And some of them think through that this is going to be on their record, and that prospective employers will see that, and it will be a black mark against them.
Problem is that service members and trauma victims are not getting the help that they need because of the stigma.
I think the stigma is an internalized one that being a patient is not really compatible with the identity of being a soldier.
And so that's another front that we approach this at the VA, and trying to destigmatize it, recognizing that these are normal reactions to a very abnormal experience, which is combat.
There are far more people that are symptomatic and could use help than are saying, hey, I'm symptomatic and need help.
It's the invisible wound, and it makes it very difficult sometimes for veterans and service members to come in for treatment because sometimes they experience feelings of guilt or shame that their wound isn't a visible wound, such as losing their arm or their leg.
From boot camp on, we were raised to be self-sufficient, do it ourselves, we're tough, that. And it takes a while. It took me almost a year from when I got back to actually go and start talking to someone.
Leave that macho image behind, not only for your benefit, for your family's benefit. If you feel you have a problem, get down to the VA and get some help. It's not a disgrace to have PTSD, although a lot of people in my generation and World War II generation thought it was.
Please go and ask for help. I know we're the tough guys, right? And I was for 39 years. It almost killed me, playing the tough guy. I'm too tough to have something like this happen to me. And that's the way I felt. But I found out that I'm not so tough after all.
This is not about how tough you are, how smart you are, how willful you are. This is a different kind of tough.
Communication is a big part of the problem in getting good veterans treatments. You have to tell them what's wrong with you if you can.
Even if it's another veteran who understands what they're going through, talk to somebody, get the help you need.
Don't put it off, go get the help, because the longer you put it off, the worse it's going to get.
Even if it's just a random person that you don't know, to get it off your chest, to get whatever you're feeling off your chest, it helps.
There are people out there like myself and thousands of other professionals out there that are happy to help. So tell somebody, just tell somebody.
Just dealing with some type of prescription drug is not enough. Obviously, the counseling and talking through the issues with another individual, many times somebody that has been through some of the same things, I think is very, very helpful.
It is quite treatable. I mean, it has been treatable historically, and it still is, but people have to participate in it.
For all my brothers and sisters that are out there that have issues, there's someone out there that cares. There's somebody out there that wants to help. People want to help, people care, and that's what's going to make us all strong, to help each other.
If you're going through severe trauma from a past, you need to talk about it. It doesn't have to be a counselor. It doesn't even have to be a spouse, just somebody, because that starts the healing. And once you've learned and you've owned it, then life is a heck of a lot better.
Many of these soldiers are injured in numerous ways. They have physical injuries that are quite obvious, but some of them have a deep, deep pain from watching their soldier brothers and sisters die or seeing death on other forms, and it wears on their heart and mind. I find that the guitar helps the person relax and introduces them to just the joy of music.
It's very therapeutic to learn how to play that guitar, create music. It helps tone down their triggers, really. The things that set off my soldiers that with post-traumatic stress, they're very anxious about crowds, they're anxious about strangers, they're anxious about a lot of things. The therapeutic value that they get through learning how to play guitar and making music is invaluable.
Most of the time I can just shut off everything and go into my own world, and I just feel the notes and the harmonies of playing the guitar and how it just takes all the pain away and everything, and I don't think about anything else.
When you come back from deployment, you know, a lot of these soldiers are going through tough times, and it allows them to express their feelings, whether it's writing lyrics to go along with their songwriting, playing along with it on the guitar.
For my post-traumatic stress soldiers, learning how to play a song, learning these skills helps them with the issues that they deal with when handling their post-traumatic stress.
I think the vibrations that the instrument makes against their body, singing not only to the room but to their soul, helps them to relax and makes them realize that no matter what they're going through, that they can work it out. And together, we will work it out. And I think that's what I'm finding in working with guitars with these fantastic warriors.
Yes, I do love my dad. I feel that he wants to become a better person. He doesn't want to suffer from this.
My name is Amy. My husband served 2 years of combat tours, and he suffers with PTSD.
Sometimes it can be hard to go places with him because you're afraid that one little thing can trigger his emotions. You feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells.
He gets frustrated very easily. He gets angry, lots of yelling, lots of throwings of things.
It's really hard for me because I feel as if I did something wrong, it's my fault.
Being in the military is a hard life. These are folks, even if you're not deploying, you're moving every 2.5 years or so, new schools, new places of business, new neighborhoods. This is a part of the deal, and then now you throw into it that, okay, somebody's going to be gone for 12, 15 months, and life happens, and then to reintegrate is an enormous challenge.
The issues that veterans go through when they are readjusting, when they come home, they affect all of us.
Your family, possibly counselors if you need it, they are all there to support you. The fact that most people don't want to tell their family because they don't want them to experience the pain, they don't understand that their family member is watching them suffer.
Reintegrating with my family was certainly a challenge. My wife, God bless her, like many wives of military leaders, really held the burden to keep the family strong.
It's been quite stressful for the whole entire family because you never know when triggers are going to pop up.
Some of the triggers that my husband has relating to his PTSD, he keeps inside, so I don't know when they're going to happen.
He does sometimes talk about his experience in wars, but it's not really bad things, it's more positive things. It almost feels as if he doesn't want to talk about the negative things.
By not talking to your family, by not talking to the counselors, your loved ones are seeing you suffer and you're ordering them not to help you, not to save you.
Hey, babe. So I saw American Sniper a few months ago. I had to watch it by myself because Jason cannot tolerate those kind of movies. But I was able to get a full view of what actually happened over there, to see the kind of stress that they went under, the type of conditions.
Chris!
Watching the wife on the phone, that tended to be us. We would be talking on the phone would go dead, a big bomb you'd hear right before, and you wouldn't hear from them for anywhere from 3 to 5 days. It was really neat to see the movie touch base on how the family and originally reacted, and how she was not sure what was really going on, her trying to protect the kids. I could truly identify with the whole movie.
Me being divorced, having a daughter, I know it's extremely important and I want to be there for her, and I have to be able to make sure I'm in a position to take care of myself so I can take care of my daughter, so I can be there for her. And I've seen that in some of my friends that their issues, it's hard for them to be around their kids because their kids can't understand why their dad does what he does.
And I know my husband loves his kids more than anything, but sometimes these evils that they bring home from war are overbearing, over controlling of their daily lives.
We used to be able to stand out in the yard and throw maybe a baseball, but because of what happened, hard for him sometimes. I'm sorry.
The struggle has been a real issue for us. I've given him options as to get help, start therapy, or I'm taking the kids and going because this isn't a healthy place for them.
He doesn't understand what's happening. He doesn't want to be that person. Oh, I'm crying again, no.
The advice I would give to other wives is don't be afraid to admit that you're in this situation. I had a hard time telling people at first. I was almost embarrassed of the PTSD. I would avoid people. I would do my own things. And I realized from connecting with other wives that are going through the same thing that it's okay and that other people are going through these and he's not just crazy, that these are real life issues that are there and we need to work on them, and I need to be his support system.
PTSD definitely came close to us having to separate. Not necessarily divorce, but I told him that if he didn't get help, I was going to have to take the kids. I realized I wouldn't give up on my husband if he had cancer, and I'm not going to give up on him if he had PTSD.
And I do see hope for our future. I see a better bond between him and the kids, even in the past 6 months. I mean, I've re-fallen in love with this guy that a year ago I was leaving and could not stand to be in the same room as, because he has sought out help and the medication is helping.
I see the relationship with my father improving. I feel that it can only get better.
He's supported us all those years. He's done amazing things. He fought for his country, and I want to be his rock.
For a veteran who's gone through a traumatic experience, their body actually creates an armor. And it's a real physical process where the muscles tighten up and will actually cement to the layers of skin and fascia around it. The muscles become hypertonic, they push out their blood supply and become ischemic, and this will cause extreme pain and limited range of motion. So through massage and body work, I try to release the trauma that is buried deep in these muscles.
I liked it because I was able to kind of meditate and concentrate just on that one feeling. And when you do that, you put everything else out of your mind, and that really helps.
Veterans that present with PTSD usually come in with a whole lot of mind chatter. It's where the brain, it just continues to evolve and revolve and over again replaying the trauma that they have witnessed, that they have lived through. The singing bowls actually speak the language of the brain, which is frequency. And for a veteran with PTSD, this is an amazing phenomenon because it can bring them out of that point where their mind is chattering and they're replaying their trauma to a point of peace.
I concentrated on the sound at one time, and then I concentrated on the vibration at another time. And I didn't let anything else enter my mind at that point, and it really worked well.
They witness the present moment. It brings them into the present and helps them center and helps them ground into their bodies. It's an amazing experience.
Most of the methods that we're using at the VA are more traditional methods, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure, EMDR, group therapies, therapies where we're teaching specific skills and ways of managing emotions.
Even traditional therapy has come a long ways in the last 10 years, but these alternative therapies have grown by leaps and bounds in their understanding and their techniques of how to really help with this problem.
Working out relieves a lot of stress.
Taking a bike ride, taking a walk, getting some regular exercise, it's going to do wonders.
I don't drink, don't smoke, do smoke pot every morning. I have a cup of coffee, newspaper, and a nice bowl of weed. That's to stop anything that's going to start that morning. I just cut it short.
There's other types of therapies that have been really helpful. Some forms of art therapy have been really helpful. Yoga therapy.
Yoga is a tough sell to the military population, especially to the men, but I could tell you it is the fountain of youth.
Meditation, mindfulness, those types of things. And a lot of those are actually being integrated into more traditional therapies at this point.
Exhale your breath all the way out.
The Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. is a form of therapy as they are able to finally reconnect with their lost buddies that are on the wall. And for many guys, it takes years and years and years to finally make that step. And now, as a volunteer at the wall, I see guys there every day that appear to have PTSD or certainly have, emotional problems.
I started my photography while I was in country, and when I came back, it certainly became a therapy tool before I even knew it was a therapy tool. Taking pictures means to me a way to enjoy kids playing, or wounded warriors adapting and skiing again, or being out on a hiking trail by myself, taking pictures of nature and landscapes. And it's a way, after a hard day, to get my mind off of things and kind of just go into my happy place.
At a certain frequency in the red spectrum, the so-called near-infrared spectrum, is able to have healing effects on human tissue. What we're doing here at Seroscan, we're employing something called near-infrared light or low-level light therapy in the near-infrared spectrum applied with LEDs, which are been shown to be very safe. We're applying those to the skull. The near-infrared light acts on hemoglobin and red blood cells and on the lining of blood vessels to release nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide has a very therapeutic and healing effect in the human body. It causes vasodilation locally. It'll dilate the arteries in that area to bring more glucose and more oxygen. We've added the biomarker, if you will, of the brain blood flow brain scan to show actual improvements in brain blood flow with this treatment. We've seen amazing progress. We've seen 180-degree turnarounds. For so long, it's been a labor of love because we haven't really had anything that really worked. And now we're on the verge of having something that really does work and makes a difference. And so it's really great for me personally to be able to help these folks.
So I think it's most important for veterans to find the treatment that fits them, because we all have a different path. And the path to recovery isn't right or wrong. It's not designated by anybody but the person walking it.
Each individual is different, and so these alternative types of treatments, whether it can be acupuncture, all need to be explored because everybody can be treated.
With treatment, people can get much better. We know that suicides decrease significantly. We know that substance abuse decreases significantly. We know that self-harming behavior decreases significantly, and people can become more connected with their communities and their family members through treatment, and that's really what it's all about.
Beautiful day to come rafting. I should come along. Woo! And we're off.
We believe that when the service member serves overseas, when they deploy, that the whole family is actually deploying and serving with them.
When the service member comes back, if he has PTSD, if he has any issues, the entire family is going to be affected by that.
We see secondary post-traumatic stress in children and the spouses, and the whole family needs to heal. Project Sanctuary is a 2-year program that focuses on healing the military family.
We offer a 6-day retreat for families, the entire family, to unwind, to reconnect with each other, to have fun, to de-stress, to forget about, for 6 days, what goes on at home every day.
The therapeutic healing environment is key. It needs to be in a safe place, a sanctuary. Oftentimes our retreats are in a mountain or in a secluded location so that these families feel safe, so that the healing can begin.
We are there to help. We are there to help the family come together and understand the troubles that the veteran is going through.
You ever have PTSD moments? Rages and stuff? Oh, yeah. You ever explain to your kids why this is going on?
One of our goals at Project Sanctuary is to help these families go from battle ready to family ready, to help them return to the communities and help them to continue to serve.
We offer recreational activities. We offer kids activities.
We also have a lot of therapeutic classes, healthy marriage, financial classes. We've developed our very own post-traumatic stress class, which has been really powerful.
To see the kids realize that there are other kids their age whose parents act this way, or whose parent who was in the service acts the same way, is really powerful.
We can't heal everybody and fix everything in 6 short days. So it's really important that we follow these families back for 2 years, that they know that they have another advocate out there. They have another avenue of support, more tools, so that they can be successful in returning back to their communities. With Project Sanctuary, our success rates are pretty outstanding, and that's because we empower the families. As of today, almost 600 families, 90% are still married. The national average for military divorces is more than 70%.
Daddy, you want a marshmallow?
More than 600 families have attended one of our programs, and we're proud to say that not one of our participants has ever committed suicide.
Nationwide, at least 22 veterans a day kill themselves. We are at 0 suicides. We count the veteran, the spouse, and all the kids. We have 0. Kind of hard to beat those odds. Whatever we're doing is working, and it is amazing.
"22 veterans a day are killing themselves, and that is not acceptable. We wouldn't accept that on the battlefield, and we shouldn't accept that here.
We respect what they do. We love them for the sacrifice that they have made. We don't want any of them to feel alone.
We're very blessed here in America, and we have these heroes sacrificing for us, these young people.
You, above all, are the most important people to this nation, and this nation owes it to you.
Welcome home. Welcome home. Thank you for your service.
I say there is hope, and that veterans are some of the most adaptable, flexible, resilient people that I have ever met.
You know, people tell you don't lose hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I used to never believe that. But now I know there is.
I'm convinced I'm going to get over mine. I'm convinced God's going to help me get on top of this.
Don't lose hope in your husband or your loved one.
Smile. because you're still alive, and every day above ground is a good day.
So every day I wake up, my eyes open, I thank God that I'm still around.
You need to find a way to accept this, to own this trauma, to own this incident, and make it yours, and use it, instead of becoming a victim, use it as a strength.
Fighting this PTSD is fighting for my kids to be able to smile. It's fighting for my wife to be able to say that she's married to a proud Marine.
Present colors.
I don't want to die. I don't want to commit suicide anymore. I don't want to let the past be my definition of my future anymore.
There is hope. There is that light, and that you do recover. You might have some scars, but they make you tougher.
We may have gone through hell, but that hell is over, and there is a chance to get through it.
Your movie, ACRONYM, beautiful. It's an acronym. Things become acronyms. I still like the term when it was, as far as I know, one of the early applications of it was soldier's heart. And we have soldier's heart.